Okay, so we're continuing on with our systems. We did our systems graphically and using the substitution method on day 10. Today we're going to do day 11, which is using our elimination method. Our elimination method is actually used a lot more often, especially when you're dealing with word problems, and especially when you get into what we're dealing with today, which is our system of 3 equations. So when we're doing our elimination method, the whole goal is to eliminate something. That's why we call it the elimination method. In order to make that happen, you need to have one of your terms, so like example 1, whether it be x's or y's, they need to have the same coefficient. It's just one's got to be a positive version and one has to be a negative version of that number. So if I look at my x's, I have a 3 and a 2. Look at my y's, I have a 3 and a 1. Not the same numbers. If I multiply this equation, though, times a negative 3, I'm going to rewrite my first one. Distribute my negative 3, so I get negative 6x minus 3y equals a 21. Now when I add my 2 equations together, my y's cancel each other out and they get eliminated. So I have negative 3x equals 12. Divide by my negative 3, and I get x equals a negative 4. So that's half my answer. I have an x value. I need a y value to go along with it. So for your y value, you pick either equation, does not matter, and I'm going to plug in a negative 4 for my x, because that's what I got x to be. So here I get negative 8 plus y equals negative 7. Add my 8 over, and I get y equals 1. So there we go. We have our 2 answers, negative 4 and a positive 1. So now what happens is we'll get equations that what we call 3 by 3. 3 by 3 means you have 3 equations and you have 3 variables in your 3 equations. So just like our other one, you want to have your x's lined up, your y's lined up, your z's lined up, and then you got to have your numbers. So to try to not get yourself lost, we want to label our 3 equations A, B, and C. So what we have to do is we still are using that elimination thought process. But as I say over here, it tells you to choose 2 equations and eliminate 1 variable. So I'm going to start with my equation A and my equation B. So my 2x plus y plus z equals 15. And my 6x minus 3y minus z equals 35. I chose these 2 because I saw that my z's had the same numbers, just one's positive, one's negative. That's exactly what I want to have. So when I add these together, my z's cancel. I have 8x minus 2y equals 50. I'm now going to call this equation D. So now I have my equation D. What I need to do now is go back to my originals again and pick, other equations. So like, for example, equation A and equation C. And I'm going to eliminate the z again. I chose A and C because I saw one's positive, one's negative for my z's. Those are going to eliminate nicely. So my z's cancel, add my x's, I get negative 2x plus 5y equals a 1. This is now my equation E. So now if you look at equation D and equation E, we have 2 variables now. We have an 8x minus 2y equals 50, and then over here I got an x and a y. So I'm going to use those 2 equations now to eliminate another letter. So I like to line them up so that you can see them. So as I'm looking at them, I think I'm going to try to go for my x's because I have one positive, one negative. If I multiply this one times a 4, I'm going to have my negative 8x, and then I can cancel those. So negative 8x plus 20y equals a 4. So now as I add them, my x's cancel. Negative 2 plus 20 gives me an 18y. 50 plus 4 gives me a 54. So then we divide by 18, and we get y equals 3. We have our first answer. So what I want to do is I want to take my y and I want to plug it into either D or E, one of these two equations, because those are the two equations that only have one other variable in there. So I'm going to plug it into equation D. So 8x minus 2 times 3 equals 50. So this gives me 8x minus 6 equals 50. Add my 6 over and divide by 8. And I've got a second answer. I have x equals 7. So now I need to get my z. So to get my z, I go back to one of my original 3 that actually has all 3 variables in it. I'll use a. So I'm going to plug in a 7 for my x, so 2 times 7, a 3 for my y. I'm solving for z. So this gives me 14 plus 3 plus a z, 7, there's 15. Add these two, I get 17. Subtract 17, and I get z equals a negative 2. So then you can always go back and check, plug all your numbers into all 3 equations, and it will definitely work out. So again, same elimination process, you just have to do it more than once. Let's try some more examples. So up here again, we need to eliminate one of the letters first. I'm going to go ahead and label A, B, and C. As I look at these, I see here a positive y and a negative y. Those are going to eliminate nicely. So I'm going to use my equation A, 4x plus y minus 3z equals negative 6. And I'm going to use my equation C, 5x minus y minus 7z equals negative 19. So add those together. I get 9x, my y's cancel, minus 10z equals a negative 25. And I'm going to call that equation D now. So what I have to do now is pick 2 other equations and eliminate the y again, because I need to get 2 equations that just have an x and a z. So I'm going to use equation B, negative 2x plus 4y plus 2z equals 38. And I'm going to use C, 5x minus y minus 7z equals negative 19. The reason I'm choosing those is because, again, with my y's, which I have to eliminate since I eliminated it over here, my y's, I have the positive negative. So all I have to do is multiply here to make that a negative 4. So my first equation is not going to change, equals 38. My second equation will change because I'm going to distribute my 4, so I get 20x minus 4y minus 28z equals a negative 76. So now I add these together, I get 18x, my y's cancel, minus 26z equals a negative 38. There's my E. So now I'm going to line these up, my 2 new equations. Equation D and equation E. So as I line them up and I look at them, I think x's are going to be the easier way to go because I already got the 9. I can easily turn into an 18. I just need to make it negative, so I'm going to multiply times negative 2. I have negative 18x plus 20z equals 50. Then I'm going to rewrite the other equation underneath it. So when I add them, my x's cancel. I get a negative 6z equals, I want to make sure I do my math right, a 12. Divide by negative 6, we get z equals negative 2. So I've got one of my answers. I got to go back and get another one. So again, we're plugging into either D or E to find our x because those 2 equations only have 2 variables. So I'm actually going to use equation D. And I'm going to plug in my negative 2 for my z. So that gives me a 9x plus 20 equals a negative 25. Subtract my 20 over, so I get 9x equals negative 45. Divide by 9. Bam, we got our second number, x equals a negative 5. So we're almost there. We just need to find our y now. So again, any of the original 3. I'm going to use the first one. I'm going to plug negative 5 in for my x. I'm going for y. Negative 2 in for my z. Let's see what we get. So we get negative 20 plus y plus 6 equals a negative 6. Combining my like terms here, I get negative 14 plus y equals negative 6. Add 14, we get y equals 8. So x is negative 5, y is 8, z is negative 2. So I do want you to try this one. So pause the video, try this one, and then restart the video to see how you did. So again, we're going to label A, B, C. I'm going to start with A and B. I chose A and B because I see that my z's will eliminate very quickly. So when I add those together, 4x plus 1x, negative 2y plus 5y, z's are gone. That gives me negative 14. There's my equation D. So now I need to pick 2 other equations. Again, I have to get rid of z since I got rid of z before. So I'm going to use equation B. And I'm going to use equation C. So I've got the positive negative in my z. That's what we want, but I just got to get them to be the same number. So I'm going to multiply this one times 4, this one times 3. So 4x plus 20y minus 12z equals a negative 148. Then negative 6x plus 3y plus 12z equals 81. Add them together, I get negative 2x plus 23y equals a negative 67. There's my E. So I'm going to line those up because those are kind of all over the place. D is 5x plus 3y equals negative 14. E is negative 2x plus 23y equals negative 67. So I'm going to eliminate my x's. Got one positive, one negative. It makes it a little easier. Let's multiply that times 2. This one times 5. So I have 10x plus 6y equals a negative 28. Negative 10x plus 115y equals, that's not right, negative 67 times 5, negative 335. Add them together. X's are gone. Get 121y equals negative 363. Divide by 121 and you get y equals negative 3. Bam. Got our first one. So I'm going to plug that in. I'm going to use equation D. I think that one looks a little easier. So I'm going to do 5x plus 3 times negative 3 equals a negative 14. So that gives me a negative 9. Add my 9 over, I get a negative 5, divide by 5, and we got our second one, x equals a negative 1. So last step, got to get our third one, so pick any of the original ones. I'm going to go with B. So we would do negative 1 for my x, plus 5 times negative 3, minus 3z equals negative 37. So this is negative 1 minus 16 minus 3z. So combine those, we get negative 17. Add our 17 over. See, as I was doing this, I knew I made a mistake. And if you guys were here in front of me instead of me talking to a board, you would have caught it. And you would have told me. I was skipping steps and I was going ahead. That should be a negative 15. 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. Now this will work out. Add my 16 and I get a negative 21. Now it's divisible. And z equals 7. There we go.